Welcome everyone to Alula Education. Today it's all about acrostic poem writing, so shall we start? In today's lesson, our students will be able to identify the acrostic poem writing and they're going to be able to compose their own acrostic poems. The outline followed is going to be the following. We're going to have a small starter talking about all different types of poems. Then we're going to move to our introduction to acrostic poems. Then we're going to have a small definition of an acrostic poems. Then we're going to talk about forms of acrostic poems. And we're going to end today's session with some practices. So let's start with today's lesson. So when I say a poem, just like when I say prose, that means I'm talking about different types of poems. So poetry is actually a very wide genre that includes various types of poems. And as examples, we have the acrostic poem, we have the three-verse poem, we have sonnet, we have narrative poem, and many more types of poems. If you remember, one of our previously taken lessons was about April Fool's Day, in which we started talking about a poem and we explored the poem and we took characters in the poem, setting in the poem, we took the theme in the poem. And if you remember, I said that this poem is considered as a narrative poem, which is the last here one, which is narrative. So other than narrative, we have tons of other types of poems, and today we're gonna get deeper into acrostic poem. So our first writing for poems, we're not gonna use free verse now. We're not gonna write a sonnet. We're not gonna write a narrative, but we're gonna focus on acrostic poems. Now, I'm pretty sure that the term acrostic is actually a new term that we didn't tackle before, so this is why we're going to take our time in defining this term. So I got a very nice YouTube video for you in which we will get to know more about acrostic poems, the definition of acrostic poem, form of acrostic poem, and why do we use it, how do we form it, what can help us in writing. All of that will be explored throughout the lesson today. So let me start with the video. Now this is the video that we're gonna actually watch right now, and this video is going to be introduced by Mr. Ken Nesbitt. Now I'm pretty sure that the name just rang in your head because this is the same poet that we spoke about yesterday, and we said that the poem April Fool's Day was actually written by the poet Mr. Ken Nesbitt, and this is the same poet that we're gonna go through his video today.
Hello everyone, I'm Ken Nesbitt, and over the coming weeks I am going to be sharing some poetry writing lessons on video to teach you how you can make poems of your own. Today I'm going to be talking about acrostics. I'll explain what acrostics are, I'll show you some examples, and we'll actually step through the process of creating an acrostic poem today so that you can then take this information and create some of your own. Okay, so first let's talk about what an acrostic is. An acrostic is a form of poem, and by the way, form is just a word that poets use to mean a type or a kind or a style of poem. Form means a set of rules for how you write that particular poem. So an acrostic is a form of poem that is really easy to write because it only has one single rule. And that rule is that the first letters of each line of the poem spell out a word or a phrase. Now, that word or phrase can be just about anything. It can be a name, it could be your name, someone else's name. It could be a thing, like, say, something that you like or something that you don't like, or a place. Pretty much anything you like. Now, commonly, that first letter of each line is also capitalized. You don't have to do this. It is not a rule, but if you capitalize the first letters of each line, what that does is it helps your word or phrase stand out and be more easily seen. And so that will help people identify your poem as an acrostic poem. Acrostic poems do not have to rhyme. You can rhyme them if you want to, but I think you'll find that it's easier if you don't worry about rhyming and only focus on getting words and ideas that fill out the first letters of each line.
Okay, so this was the first part of the video that we're gonna tackle throughout the session today, in which you saw Mr. Ken Nesbitt explaining about acrostic poems. So after watching the video, we come up to the following conclusion. When talking about acrostic poems, that means I'm talking about a poem in which the first letters of each line spell out a word or a phrase. Now, when I say first letters of each line, I want you to look at the picture that we have on the right, and you can see that I have it in purple, S-U-N. So S-U-N, this is sun. So when I say spell a word, that means I have a word, but this word is actually written vertically. Now, they told you that the word or name can actually be a phrase, it can be a name, it can be a thing, or it can be whatever you like. So I can choose, for example, the name Ola, O-L-A, and I can do an acrostic poem with it. I can, for example, choose the name Ali, and I will put A-L-I, and I can do an acrostic poem. So it's up to you actually to choose the name or the thing, the phrase that you want to use for an acrostic poem. And last but not least, they tell you that it's usually like this. The first letter of each line is actually capitalized. So you can see that the S is capitalized, the U is capitalized, and the N is actually capitalized. So this is the first encounter with acrostic poems, in which we explain that it's a poem in which the first letters of each line spell out a word or phrase. The word or name can be a phrase, a name, a thing, or whatever you like. And last but not least, the first letter of each line is actually capitalized. So this was a small definition of acrostic poems and some of the features that you can find in such poems. Now, if I want to talk a bit about the form of acrostic poems, what can I actually say when speaking about the form? Now, when talking about the form of acrostic poems, I have to tell you, it's not going to make your life hard. Trust me. It's very, very simple and easy, since acrostic poems are written by choosing a word to go vertically down a page, and they don't need to rhyme. Now, if you look at the arrow that I provided here on the right, you can see that I made it in the correct vertical line. So it's moving down and it's quite simple. Let's talk about a very simple example. If I want to use the word poem, so poem, P-O-E-M. You see how I wrote the word P-O-E-M vertically rather than writing it horizontally. So this is a small, again, clarification, but we're gonna go deeper and deeper into examples until we reach a poem that you write by the end of the sessions. So let's go through one example together of an acrostic poem. Now, when talking about an acrostic poem, we just need to think about a word or phrase that we want to use for our poem. Now, as a small example, I'm going to use the word that was just there, which is poem. Now, if we have the word poem in front of us and we want to do the acrostic poem, we need to start of things that actually begin with the letter on the line. So, for example, I have the letter P, so I have to start with P. I have the letter O, then I have to start with the letter O. If I have the letter E, then I have to start with the letter E. And if I have the word M, then I actually need to start with M. Now, if I take the first one, which is P, I can say personal thoughts. So personal thoughts starts with a P. If I'm talking about O, then I have on each line. So personal thoughts on each line. Then I move to E, which is here, express your feelings. So personal thoughts on each line, express your feelings, and last but not least, make people happy. So see how the poem is formed. You just need to pay attention to the letter at the beginning, and you don't need to worry about rhyme and rhythm. It's free here, so we don't care much about them. So this is a small example that we tackled. Now we're gonna get deeper and deeper into examples and how do we actually write our own acrostics. We will continue our video that we started at the beginning of the lesson about acrostic poems, and this time it's gonna guide you through your writing of the poem.
And so then really all you have to figure out is what would you like to write an acrostic about? Now, I decided I wanted to write an acrostic about something that I like, and something that I like is ice cream. So here is my little example acrostic about ice cream. I love every flavor. Cookies and cream, English toffee, chocolate chip, rocky road, even strawberry, and plain old vanilla. Now, if you look at this acrostic, you will see that the first letters of each line spell out the words ice cream. And really,
let's take a closer look at the word used here in the video, which is actually ice cream. So as I told you previously, these words can be your own words, so you can write about the thing that you find interesting or a word that you would like to use. So as you see, ice cream is written vertically, I here, C, E, this is ice. Then you have cream, C, R here, E, A, A, and last but not least, M, M. So, ice cream. So you can see that for I, he used I love every flavor. Cookies and cream for C. English toffee for E. Chocolate chips for C. Rocky road for R. Even strawberries with E. And plain old vanilla A. Last but not least, is for M. So if we go back and remember that he also spoke about homework, so you saw that he wrote the word homework in a vertical line, and he started with H. So I take the actual word and then I start with a vertical line, H, O, M, E, W, O, R, K. So, homework. Let us take another example of an acrostic poem. Smearing on sunscreen under the umbrella for shade, melting popsicles, massive waves, everyone's happy, ready to play all day. So as you can see, this is an acrostic poem, and you see that the word used is actually bold here, so you can guess what is the word used here. Now look at the poem and tell me, what is actually the poem talking about, and is this the word used for the poem too, or what do you think? So as you can see that it's clearly there. The word, we have S, U, M, M, E, and then R. Now you note that this is written vertically here since this is an acrostic poem, but if I want to take and I want to bring them back in order to guess what is the word, you can see that I put the letters S, U, M, M, E, R, and I get that it is summer. So this is how we go with acrostic poem. So here are the resources used for the PowerPoint and for the whole lesson today. This was it for the acrostic poem writing lesson by Alula Education. Take care everyone, stay safe, and I'll see you next time in another lesson.